Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings you a special guest each week to delve into the realms of fandom. Our guest today is Mew of Mew 21 Cosplay. She is a cosplayer, costume designer, and performance company owner based in Orlando, Florida. She has won various craftsmanship and performance awards at many events, including Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia, and MegaCon in Orlando, Florida. Several of her cosplays have been featured on different social media outlets like Dorkly, Geek Girls, and Art of Cosplay. She loves to teach others through informative panels on cosplay subjects. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Mew.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So how did you get into your biggest, baddest fandom, which you have told me is Sailor Moon?
So I, like many 90s kids, got into the Sailor Moon fandom whenever I think it was 1998, so I was 8 years old. I watched Sailor Moon on Toonami and quickly became obsessed with the series, and back in the day all we had is VHS tape. So I got as many as I could get my hands on and watched Toonami religiously.
Were you someone that once you got into it, like once you saw the first few episodes, you were hooked?
Yes, definitely. And there wasn't really what I would call a fandom back then for anime because Toonami was basically the only place you could find it. So it was one of those where once I was hooked, it was hard to find more about it.
Yeah, I know how that is. When I was in high school, it was coming out. It hadn't come, I don't think it had come out yet in America, but I had friends that used to get it off the internet or get the imported videotapes. And that's how I was introduced to Sailor Moon, was through that.
So did you watch dub or subbed?
I actually don't remember. I saw it back in high school, and it's been such a long time. All I remember was the character, like the artwork, and I believe it was, I would have to say it was like a fan subtitle.
Oh gosh.
So, I mean, it was incredibly difficult work for the people that were bringing the DVDs in or the CDs in at that time, or the videotapes, because it was just such a difficult process for them to even get what they were looking for.
I know, and now we can watch Sailor Moon Crystal literally as it comes out in Japan.
Yeah, the technology to watch anime has definitely improved. From going from you buying it online and having it shipped over to hoping that maybe someone on the internet will do a subtitle of it or dub it, and now it's just on demand basically.
I know, it's amazing how much technology has been able to connect everyone.
So when you were a Sailor Moon fan, did you stick with it, or after you lost, or when it stopped airing on Toonami, did you fall out of the fandom and then get back into it?
So with Sailor Moon, what really happened was the first 4 seasons were dubbed, and they were heavily censored dubbed, but they were at least dubbed. So that was about 4 years. So I was about getting like 12, about to enter my teen years, and they never dubbed stars. So I was still a fan, but at that point, I would say like anime wasn't cool, quote unquote. So
right.
I kind of got out of it because I never got to see like the conclusion of the series, and all I had was the manga, and just kind of fell out of the fandom. But it was something like I still kept my DVDs that I was able to get, and it was more of I rediscovered it after in college.
When it became cool again to watch stuff like that.
It was more of I just I kind of stopped because I came from like a very, very proper area in Pittsburgh, which is more old fashioned and into sports than say anime.
Right.
So it was more of I got to rediscover what I really like.
Who's your favorite character in Sailor Moon?
Definitely Michiru Kaio, Sailor Neptune.
What is her appeal for you?
She is one of the older scouts in the series. She actually starts at 16, and she has a very interesting backstory and motivations and takes some of the more unique turns in the series.
One of mine, my initial one was always Sailor Mercury, and then when the outer senshi showed up, it was Sailor Pluto.
Sailor Pluto. Definitely the outer scouts have always appealed to me much more than the inner scouts. Maybe it's because, especially rediscovering it as an adult, their storylines are a lot more relatable. They have a lot more deeper issues. And especially with rediscovering that Uranus and Neptune were not cousins, as I was brought up as a kid, it added a whole other element to their characters.
Yeah, I could imagine that when not just you, but when people actually get into it and find out the travesties that the dubbing did to the storyline, and they just get to see how it really is supposed to be or was supposed to be, that's just opening up a whole new world for them.
Exactly, because it adds so much more, like, I don't want to say darkness, but so much more emotion to every scene, and just the characters especially, because you understand their motivations even more.
And you cosplay as one of the Sailor Scouts, is that correct?
Yes, Neptune, Sailor Neptune. I have, oh my gosh, okay, to admit this, probably at least 10 or 12 versions.
Wow.
I use her because she's my favorite. I use her whenever I need to learn a new skill. So if I need to learn how to do a specific seam or work with a certain fabric or learn how to dye something, like, I go to her first because I know no matter what, I'll enjoy it.
Oh, well, that is a good plan. I'd never thought about it like that. I mean, if you stick with the character that you love the most, you're not going to just discard the cosplay after like one time, or you're going to use it forever.
Yeah, you're going to fight it and make it work, because I've had to restart projects 3 or 4 times.
Do you have a Sailor Moon?
If it's my favorite character, I'll make it work.
Do you have a Sailor Neptune cosplay closet just specifically for those outfits?
No, I try to keep all my cosplay condensed into one closet for the sake of space. Desperately, I try.
What is your favorite as far as your cosplay of Sailor Moon or Sailor Neptune? Is there a particular version that you like to do the best?
It is a tie between my Mugen school uniform and my Sailor Fuku. The Sailor Fuku, the advantage of it is everybody knows it. It's instantly recognizable, and I'm also extremely proud of how it turned out. It was one I did with my friend at the time who did Uranus with me. We made them together, and so they turned out extremely well. But with Mugen, it's one of those that it's such a technically difficult costume with the plaid. Because we actually decided whenever I made both myself and Uranus's, and the only job I gave my Uranus, and she almost killed me for it, was I asked her to paint all the lines of plaid. And it took her about 22 hours.
Woo, that is a long time.
Yeah, so luckily Heidi was a great sport, but it was one of those where I wanted it to be screen accurate. And so to be screen accurate, we literally had to construct everything from scratch and literally hand do all of it.
How is the Sailor Moon fandom when it comes to cosplaying and conventions? It seems to me that they're one of the groups that is most open to newcomers and just being very inviting to anybody.
They're definitely, I'd say, one of the most open fandoms. There's such a large cast of characters that you can cosplay. I mean, I don't know how much you know about Sailor Moon, but you can go from the musicals to the manga to the anime to PGSM, which was a live action version. There's hundreds and hundreds of different costumes that you can and cosplays you can do. And they're also available already ready made, because it's been a fandom that's been around for so long. So if you can't sew or anything, you can always buy a costume. So it's more of just, you love that character, and there's probably 100 other people at a con that love that character. Absolutely.
That's always the one thing I see is Sailor Moon meetups and Sailor Moon big photography sessions, and during the cosplay contest there's always like at least a group of Sailor Moon people that are doing the skits and for presentations and designs and everything under the sun.
It's one of those where it's instantly recognizable, and you just kind of automatically, if someone's cosplaying it, you have a connection to them.
What would you attribute Sailor Moon's longevity to?
Probably the character. The creator of Sailor Moon did this amazing job of making characters where she could have easily just made it about their powers and their past, but instead she made it about who they are as people. And it cannot be an easy job to balance 9 Sailor Scouts plus, Tuxedo Mask plus Chibi Moon plus all of these. But she manages to do it in a way where they are each unique and distinct. And you're going to find someone you relate to. It doesn't matter if it's one of the story arc villains in S, or if it's actually one of the main 9, you're going to find someone.
And that is always a good thing, having a multitude of characters where you are going to find someone that you identify with. It might just take some time, or you might flip flop between one or two characters, but there's always a character out there, definitely, that you will line up with maybe like 90% of the time.
Like one of my great friends, Monica, does the best Sailor Galaxia I have ever seen in my life, and she is a character that literally does not come in until Stars, which is season 5.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever heard of the Galaxia.
She is the main villain for the Stars arc and one of the most interesting characters by far in the series.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Where do you find the old Sailor Moon? Do you find it just on the internet, or do you have to look for it in special areas?
It's hard because the old dub is being re-released now with new dub. If you want to find old dub, I know that there's a DVD set that I have, but finding the original DVDs can be hard. I do know some places you can stream it online. The new dub is much more accessible. I think it's on Hulu and Crunchyroll. I know they're dubbing Crystal for the dub because Stars was never dubbed before.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only find it subbed. But I think that's all on like YouTube and a couple of easy places to find it.
Okay, I'll have to definitely look for that. I'm just adding more and more to my list as this podcast goes on, and I bring in different people to talk to about things. Now, for people that like Sailor Moon, is there something recent that you would recommend that people might be interested in?
The most recent, and it's getting fairly popular, that I would suggest is Madoka Magica. It's a magical girl style anime, but it actually takes an interesting and unique turn where it goes into what exactly does it mean to be a magical girl and what does that contract actually like entail. And it brings up a lot of theories, has some beautiful animation that's very unique, and also has a fantastic soundtrack.
So that's Madoka Magica.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one, I think it's got a silly name?
Yes, it's a little older and it is completed. It is called Princess Tutu, and I know that name sounds absolutely horrible. It is a very light and fluffy magical girl series about a girl named Duck who is literally a duck and transforms into a human to save a prince's heart that has been shattered by the raven. It's actually based on a ballet, and it is absolutely fantastic. It uses traditional ballet music and actually has this gorgeous animation, but in the second season, it actually takes a turn for the dark, and you will never see the ending coming.
Really?
It's absolutely fantastic. It was just one of those surprise animes where I thought I knew exactly where it was going, and then they just decide it just spins it on its head.
Okay, so that is Princess Tutu, and I imagine that is also available on the streaming sites.
I know for sure you can buy a box set with the whole series. I'm pretty sure it's on a couple streaming sites. It's one I haven't watched recently because I own the DVD set, but I know several friends who I've recommended it to have found it.
Now, is there, besides Sailor Moon, what's another fandom that you are into?
One of my absolute favorite fandoms is Mass Effect.
And Mass Effect is a at least right now, a 3-part video game series.
Yes, it is a 3-part video game series following the main character, Commander Shepard, and it's about to have a sequel come out called Mass Effect Andromeda.
I have never played Mass Effect. I've always wanted to, but I've never had the time to do it as of yet, but I'm hopeful.
I definitely highly recommend it. It is a long series. It follows, you are Commander Shepard, and you have to make decisions. It's a role-play game where I played it on the PC. I know it's available on Xbox. Like it has a lot of different platforms, but it builds up a main cast of characters between 1, 2, and 3, and the characters come in. Like my favorite character, Liara Tassani, is in Mass Effect 1 and 3, and briefly in 2, but you really get to know all about them. And as Shepard, you have to do missions to gain their loyalty, and it's just a very, very well-written storyline up until I'm not a huge fan of the end of Game 3. But I'd say the journey is worth it.
I heard that the end of 3, there was a lot of outrage from the Mass Effect community.
As with as many hours as you spend with this game, and the big thing is you can either be a Paragon or a Renegade, which is like good, or a good Commander Shepard, or like a morally questionable Commander Shepard. So the controversy with 3 ties into that.
Okay.
And it's something I don't spoil ends of anything, especially because you spend so many hours in Mass Effect. But it's very, very frustrating. And they did try to fix it, but the fans are still kind of in the salt.
Are you looking forward to the Andromeda coming out?
Yes, I absolutely love the Mass Effect world. I know it won't have Commander Shepard, but I'm very hopeful since I did love so many of the side characters.
Okay, so they are going to bring in some of the side characters into the new one?
I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything for sure because I don't know what news is true and what news is false. All I know is it
Okay.
does take place in that world. My character I cosplay is an Asari, which is
Okay.
a blue, has like tentacles instead of hair. They're an alien all-female species, and they're absolutely amazing.
And you cosplay as that character?
Yes.
Do you paint your skin blue?
Yeah, myself and my two friends who also cosplay Asari, we use full cowls, which we got from a wonderful artist out in California called the Mad Masker. And we'd use that and then body paint to give the full effect.
How long does that take?
When we did it for MegaCon and we had 3 Asari, it took us a total of 4 hours to get ready.
Ooh, so that means that you're waking up at maybe like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning to do this?
Yeah, we woke up at 7. And it is
Okay.
a full spandex suit from my neck all the way down to my toes, and every single inch is covered.
Is
It's
it
Mass Effect
comfortable?
one. It's not the worst thing I've ever worn, but it is very hot considering the climate I'm in.
Right, because you are out of Orlando, Florida, same as I am.
Yes. So you have to
Eh.
deal with the heat and the spandex and the body paint and the cowl. But whenever you really love and care about a character, you'll pretty much do anything.
That's what I've heard from a lot of other people, is that the pain sometimes is worth it as long as they have like that perfect cosplay going on.
Yes, and Asari are not cosplayed often, but whenever you do, it's one of those really fun feelings because people always freak out because it's so unique to Mass Effect fandom.
Do you get a lot of requests for pictures?
Always. We didn't move much at MegaCon, especially because we had 3 Asari.
Is there a lot of cosplay in the Mass Effect fandom? Is it more geared towards like the Commander Shepards, or do people branch out into the other characters?
I definitely see the most Commander Shepard and Miranda, who is a character from Mass Effect 2. I see the most of those two, but they're also human characters. Whereas
Right.
most
So it's a
characters
lot
in
easier.
aren't human.
Yeah, you're not like you're not putting on the all the tentacles and the blue paint for the easy characters. It's always the hard ones.
They're definitely not easy. I'd say no cosplay in Mass Effect is easy, but like they're more comfortable to go with, even though like Shepard most of the time is like a full body suit of armor, and Miranda's again is a whole spandex suit.
And you have also, since you live in Orlando, as do I can't imagine you have not or are not a big Disney person.
I am a very big Disney person. I love cosplaying Disney and Star Wars because I kind of now rope them in like a similar universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I cosplayed a lot of my friends and I cosplay the princesses quite often. Aurora, I would say, is my favorite to do. I got to do her park redesign because I found the absolute perfect fabric, and it was definitely one of the more hard construction pieces. Just because of the unique history of the dress and how it's supposed to sit and lay. And I got to sculpt the crown and the necklace out of Warbler, which is one of my favorite things to do.
So you not only make the cosplay, like the costumes, you're actually doing like the props and stuff too.
I try to make everything if I can. If there's something that I can try to make 100% myself, I will always go for it.
That is incredible. I can't work with my hands. I'm not a handy person. So anybody that can like sew a button on is impressive to me. And going from there, that's incredible.
I like to pride myself on being a craftsmanship cosplayer. I want to have the best techniques and learn as much as I can because I didn't go to school for this. I just have an absolute love for it. I honestly discovered cosplay pretty late in life because I would say it was right after I was out of college at about 23. That's whenever I discovered what cosplay was and just instantly became hooked on it.
How did you get into cosplay? What was the entry point for you?
It was right after I had just changed jobs and I was just kind of doing more research and I was watching, I believe it was like Face Off, and just being interested in like the movie magic and how that kind of goes about. And then I heard about what a big epicenter Orlando is for entertainment and costumes. And one of my friends invited me to my first con, and I just knew cosplay was something I wanted to try.
What was your first cosplay?
Big surprise. Mina from Sailor Moon, her middle school uniform.
And now you are a award-winning
Yes.
cosplayer.
I love competing. I try to make all of my costumes competition quality, so everything is properly done and finished and fitted.
Okay, so there is a difference between competition and just like regular cosplays, or is it just that the detail is a little bit more for the competition ones?
I'd say it's more detail and finishing depending on, have you competed before? What class are you? It's like if you've never competed before, you're like a novice, because it's usually like between like 1 and 3 awards, you'd be a novice still. And then the next class is journeyman, and then the next class is masters. As you progress, they expect to see your skills progress.
Did you ever watch the show that was on TV called, I think it was Heroes of Cosplay?
Yes, I did. I saw the first season of it.
What did you think about that? Is it an accurate representation of the cosplay world, or at least what you are involved in?
I am trying to remember it very well because I did watch it, but I only watched it once all the way through.
Okay.
I remember being very, very impressed by Yaya because of her dedication to craftsmanship and skill. And I do think that kind of sunk in with me because I saw how hard everybody worked on all of their costumes to make sure that they were as best as they possibly could be. And I think I just thought that was how it was. It's like you just work. So for me, that's kind of just how I went into it, is that I was going to make everything. And I had a lot of trial and error, and I had a lot of things go good and a lot of things go bad. But every time I've learned a good lesson. So I do, as far as I can think, because like I said, I don't remember it that well, but I do agree. Like you work and you just work all the time on it as much as you can.
The one thing that I always found interesting when I was watching that show was they would get to the convention and just keep working on their costume, missing, granted, like they're missing at least like a day and a half of the convention to get their cosplay ready for the costume contest. I always felt so bad for them.
It was funny because I do have friends who do that, but I kind of made a promise to myself that I would never do that. I think the most I've ever done is gone home early one night, and after that I was so mad at myself for missing the convention that I refused. I was like, I'm either going to have it done or I'm not going to compete. Because to me, competing should be fun. It should be a happy thing. It's kind of like I'm so proud of myself for achieving this. I want to showcase it. And if you're not having fun, then it kind of defeats the purpose in my book for myself.
Definitely, I definitely understand that. Do you compete regularly still, or are you moved on to more like panels and teaching other people about cosplay?
I haven't competed yet this year. I did compete a lot last year, and I won a lot of titles. So this year I've kind of taken a step where I'm trying to also grow as a cosplayer. So I'm doing a lot of panels this year. I'll craftsmanship focus. I'll be a guest at MetroCon in Tampa in July, and I'll be giving 4 craftsmanship panels. One is called 2D to 3D, the art of cosplaying cartoon physics. Let's see, the other one is Sailor Moon Cosplay 101, the art of the fuku. I'll also be doing Wigs 101, and the other one I will be doing with one of my great photographer friends, I Am Photography. And it's called Putting Play into Your Cosplay Photos. And the rest of the panels, I'm all pulling in great friends who are extremely talented so that everybody gets a large variety of skills and stories.
Now, can you give us just a little brief snippet about the 2D to 3D cartoon physics? What are you going to be talking about in that panel?
So that panel, it's one of those where it's so hard to take a 2D image and try to figure out, how will this look in real life? What will actually adapt well? What will adapt poorly? So I got together with my friends and we talked about the different, basically we broke down into 4 categories. One is anime, because anime physics are very, very, very well known for being unrealistic. The other one is video games. The third one is Western animation and cartoons such as Disney. And then the fourth one is art and fantasy. So what we're going to do is we are going to go in and we're going to give tips on each version. And I have friends like my friend No Flutter, who is an artist. She's going to be talking a lot about the art and fantasy because that's literally what she draws.
And then with the Sailor Moon, I imagine you're just going to be going over the basic Sailor Scout costume?
Yes, the fuku, because there's many types of fukus, because it varies from the musical to the manga to the anime to PGSM. So I'm going to be giving kind of a basic breakdown with 3 other friends who have all done Sailor Fukus in a different form.
What's the hardest thing about the Sailor Fukus?
I'd say, honestly, the hardest thing is probably the skirt, because it changes and it also looks so different if you don't get it to lay perfectly. That's really, I'd say, the biggest key to keeping it flattering on your body shape is how your skirt fits.
I don't have any experience in that, so that was just very curious to me.
Oh no, in the Sailor Fukus, if you look, they're very 90s, which is why it has a V in the front and a V in the back, and it comes up high because it's a leotard, but it's a very 90s high cut leotard.
My knowledge about that is very deep.
No worries.
You've mentioned Star Wars. I can't imagine that you don't watch Star Wars and you're like, that's a wonderful costume. I'm going to make that.
So the difficult part with Star Wars is that it's already in reality. You actually have a real version to base yours on. Sometimes, like whenever Padme Amidala obviously has the best wardrobe in the entire galaxy. I feel so bad for Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher got gypped. But
well, I think for Carrie Fisher, she definitely has the most iconic outfit from the Star Wars universe.
She definitely does. And whenever I cosplayed Padme, because the one I did most recently is Padme from episode 2, the picnic meadow dress.
Okay.
And it has those iconic buns that Leia has, but in a different form. My kids were constantly calling me Leia.
Oh, that must be hard. Kids just need to learn the difference.
It's kind of hysterical because they all know who Darth Vader is, but they have no idea who Padme is.
Well, of course, Darth Vader's Darth Vader. Padme's just she talks a lot. What's she doing?
No, I basically go, do you know who Darth Vader is? That's his wife. But with her kind of outfits, they're so detailed and intricate. Like whenever I did the meadow dress, the whole front of the dress is machine embroidered if you do your research. So the problem is I didn't have a machine to embroider at the time. So I did a bunch of research, and what I ended up doing was doing fabric roses and then doing fabric paint around that to kind of mix in the 2D and the 3D. I was going to say, it's one of those where you got to understand where your skill level is at the time and what materials you have available and just kind of go off of the best you can.
That is incredible. That I can't imagine. Well, I guess I could if I was really thinking that I could work with my hands. I would definitely maybe try to do something, but that's very intense, like labor intensive.
I think I sewed a couple hundred roses onto that dress because they're all over the cape. So it was a very labor intensive cosplay.
My favorite outfit of Padme's was always that dress that she wears or they're getting out of the boat, they're on a veranda. It's a very pastel colored one.
Oh, is it the one, the lake one where her hair is in the shape of that one? It's absolutely great. I love that one to death. It's just one of the most beautifully dyed gowns I've ever seen.
That one was probably my favorite of what she had, besides her iconic light-up dress that she had in Phantom Menace.
Oh, and if we didn't live in Florida, I would have so many more of her outfits, but due to living in Florida, it's just most of them are too warm, and I don't go to enough cooler conventions.
So when you do these panels, like at MetroCon, are you invited from the convention, or do you submit to them and then they decide on who they want to bring in?
So for MetroCon, I actually submitted my application. I made sure I really wanted to feel like I had a lot to offer, which is why I spent most of last year really trying to refine my skills and also competing so that I had the experience. And it's not so much they required it, I required it of myself.
When you cosplay, does the cosplay come first and the fandom follows, or do you get into the fandom first and then the cosplay stems out of that?
I would say it's always fandom first. I have done only 1 or 2 cosplays that friends had asked me to join in group, and whenever my heart isn't in it, I find I don't enjoy wearing it as much, and I especially don't enjoy building it as much. So I've kind of come to the point where, like I said, I have 10 or 12 Neptunes, and it's because she's my favorite thing and she makes me happy. So
Hmm.
I know I might not get many fans because I don't vary as much, but I think my fans enjoy more the happiness that they see from me because I am enjoying what I'm doing and it's coming from a genuine place, not a I want to get more exposure place.
Absolutely. I do have a question. You have a Princess Celestia costume from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Yes, it is one of my most ambitious pieces I ever decided to try.
And based on what we just said, that means that you were into the My Little Pony before the costume?
And you can blame Tinka Cosplay for that. She is my best friend, and she has been obsessed with My Little Pony since it began. And
Are we talking the original My Little Ponies or
no,
this?
just the new ponies.
Okay.
Just
I
the
just wanted to make sure.
Friendship is Magic.
I have
But
to
she said
admit,
she
I
watched
remember.
it just ironically. No, I was just, like she said she watched it ironically, and then she got pulled in by the writing, which is exactly what pulled me in as well. I wouldn't say I am ridiculously into the fandom, but I am definitely a big fan of it.
I had the same thing come up. I remember seeing it on Netflix, and I was like, "What's this? A new My Little Pony?" Well, the art looks really different from what I remember My Little Ponies back in the 80s.
Yes.
So I watched the first episode and I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever watched. And then my daughter started watching it and I would watch it with her. And the stories, while more geared towards the much younger at times generation for like my kids and a little bit older, the writing is very well done.
Oh, it's honestly it's some of my favorite writing that is on current TV, especially like with the season 5 premiere. Whenever they actually go into kind of a communist society where everyone is into equality, and there's one
Hmm.
pony who's leading it, and just the implications and being locked away with monsters. Be like this is a kids show.
Yeah, that was the last episode I actually watched. I haven't been able to watch any of the others because my daughter has found Pokemon, shockingly enough.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
she got into that now. But I did watch all of the My Little Ponies and the My Little Ponies where they become people.
Equestria girls.
Equestria girls, yes. And I do have a favorite pony. I like Big Mac.
Yes, Big Mac. He actually gets a
And
lot more episodes as the show goes on.
that, and I do like I can't remember his name, but Weird Al did the voice.
Oh, cheese sandwich, I think it is.
Yes, cheese sandwich. And we went to the Weird Al concert in St. Petersburg and they showed a clip of cheese sandwich.
That is amazing.
And it was hilarious.
It's one of those
And
where you never think you're ever going to become a fan of the show, but you constantly now see big stars who are genuinely fans of it.
yeah, it's definitely, I have to admit, when I heard the term like bronies and that there was a My Little Pony convention and that it's a lot of bronies there, it took me aback. It's not that I like all fandoms, or at least I respect all fandoms. I might not be into it, but at least like I'm accepting of it because hey, they might not accept my love of Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever I like, but I did do a double take when I heard the term brony. I think it's not or it should not be used derogatorily.
No, I absolutely I genuinely they are absolutely wonderful people. Like I have even seen someone showed me the YouTube channel Bronies React. And like a lot of times their videos are absolutely hysterical. So it's one of those where like I wouldn't say I really love the show, but I wouldn't call myself a full brony just because it's one of them where they have such passion for their fandom. That's how I feel about Sailor Moon. So it's one of
Right.
those where I want to respect them as a culture because honestly, they've always been very nice. I've gotten so much love for my Celestia gown, and I just absolutely love it.
Now that Celestia gown, number one, is beautiful. I'm looking at it right now.
Thank you.
But that must be another outfit where in the Florida heat and humidity, it cannot be fun to wear. Unless you have like a little mini fan plugged in underneath that we can't see.
No, it is a elongated ball gown with princess themes. It was originally based on a medieval style, and then it's an original concept. Myself and Tinka did Luna and Celestia as sisters and did gowns that would complement each other. So my gown, I actually really mastered dyeing for that one because I wanted it to look like she was a sunrise whenever she walked. So it's
Hmm.
bridal satin dyed to look like a sunrise with lace trim, has rhinestones, and then the center portion is all satin and it's all beaded. It took me about 3 months of beading just for that center portion, but I am extremely proud. It is actually the exact art from behind Celestia's throne that's on my gown.
Wow.
That's what I used whenever I pulled it in, and I made sure all my gowns use her main colors, which is like a teal blue, a purple, a mint green, and then pink, which is why
That is,
the sleeves have pink lining.
that is phenomenal. Like
So
that's a level of detail that I like looking at the picture I would never know unless you had explained it. That's just incredible.
every single portion of that dress has meaning.
That is absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's a wonderful picture. When your podcast goes up, everyone that's listening, please check out the website and the Facebook page to see this picture because it is stunning. Like the work on it is incredible.
No, I was very lucky, and that's actually a haul shot from one of my good friends, Eddie and Papanazzi. It was, I think it was right after it was my first Best in Show win with Celestia.
Wow, best in show, Princess Celestia.
Yeah.
Which convention did you win best in show at for that?
That was actually, it was a first year con. It was 2050, which was in Daytona.
We have just enough time. Is there a fandom that you're into that you feel is underrated or overlooked that you think more people should get into?
Definitely, I'm a fan of old school 90s animes. It's kind of like where my roots started, so it's kind of just one of those that I just really enjoy. Dot Hack is one of those where I don't think many people, like a good amount of people, like from my generation, know of it. But the generation that likes like Sword Art Online, they would absolutely love it because it's a similar concept where they're trapped in a game. But it's
Hmm.
music is amazing, the animation is amazing, the story is such a mystery. So it's definitely one I highly suggest people check out.
And I have to agree with you because I remember when it came out and watching it on my computer because I believe I had to download it off the internet back in those days, and it took forever because we didn't have
Yes.
the high speed internet that we do now, that it would take days to download these episodes, but it was well worth it.
Agreed. And I just highly recommend it. I still listen to the theme song till today.
Oh,
And then
the music is amazing in it. It's fantastic.
it's some of my favorite music in all animes by far.
Now you're making me want to go back and watch this again.
And then I'd say the only other series that I highly, highly recommend is Fate Zero. Most people are familiar with Fate Stay Night, but Fate Zero is actually a prequel that they made after.
Okay, I've heard of the Fate,
The Fate
the
Stay
one that
Night.
you mentioned. Yes.
And Fate
I've
Zero,
heard.
it's very unique for an anime to have a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often done. It's kind of a risk. So for the Fate series to actually go back and decide to do a prequel, I am just ever so thankful they did it. The storyline is just amazing. It's like a battle royale, and you see all the families and there's twists, and you never know. There's no real defined main character besides, like, of course, Saber, but even then she gets like equal time with the other servant and masters. It's all the battle for the Holy Grail, which is just wonderful, wonderful to see.
What is coming up for you? You have MetroCon in your panels.
Yes, and I will also be going with one of my wonderful friends, Ethel Artistry, who is a finalist in the Her Universe fashion show at San Diego Comic Con. I will be going as her model, and I am just helping out on little things like the shoes and the handbag and the wig. I'm helping her out with that, and I am very excited to compete with her.
That's awesome. San Diego Comic Convention is not anything to go lightly about. That is the big nerd mecca these days.
It is, and it will be my first time at the Hero Universe runway. I'm a huge, huge fan of the fashion line, so I'm very honored to be a part of it.
Well, that's great. And do you have any cosplays coming up that you're currently working on for either this year or next year?
For the rest of this year, for sure, I am going to be doing Sailor Neptune's new Crystal Fuku, so I have fresh pictures for my panel. I'm also going to be working on her Eternal Fuku, which is, again, so I have great pictures of the panel because I really, really want my panels to be very easy to follow and visual. As for the rest of the year, I am going to make sure because I partnered and did a collaboration with my friend No Flutter for the Warrior Princess series in Sailor Moon, which is the Sailor Scouts, but as warrior princesses, kind of Saint Xena and Wonder Woman.
Okay.
It's armor based in Greek and Roman mythology.
Awesome.
So I did our first run of it, which was all concept art. I premiered it at MegaCon, and then I'm actually going to be going back as she finishes designing them, and I'm going to be premiering with a group at KatsuCon next year.
That sounds awesome. I think you sent me a picture of that Neptune Greek.
Yeah.
And when you guys are listening, check it out because it is amazing. It's very original and totally different than what you would expect from Sailor Moon or the Sailor Moon, the traditional Sailor Moon Fukus. It is pretty awesome.
No Flutter was absolutely amazing, and it's really just it's such a cool concept because they look amazing, can take you in a fight warriors. And I did it with another friend, Jenna. Elise, who she built my armor, and then I did her fabric work, and then No Flutter actually helped me paint it. So it was really cool to get the artist herself actually helping you paint the armor.
Right. That would be pretty awesome. If people are looking to find you online, where can they find you?
I post most often on Facebook. It's been where I've been the longest. I've also started to get into Instagram. Both of those are cosplay only. Every once in a while, I'll throw a regular picture of my actual life in there. Otherwise, I'd say I'm also on DeviantArt and Tumblr.
One last question before we go.
Mm-hmm.
Guys in Sailor Moon Fukus, yes or no?
I think everybody should be able to cosplay whatever they want. Go for it. I will fully support you.
That's a great answer. I just asked because I recently came across a lot of pictures of guys either in
I think they're
Sailor
amazing.
Fukus, and then there was some that were in tuxedo outfits.
Yeah,
awesome.
I actually have friends who cosplay gender bend versions of the Sailor Scout, and I absolutely love the guys. We've been friends for years now, and that's how we met is through Sailor Moon.
That's great. See, everyone's included. You can wear whatever you want.
I am always for that.
Well, it has been a great privilege to talk to you. Have a great time at MetroCon, and then an even better time at San Diego Comic-Con. And hopefully just don't get overwhelmed by the enormity of it.
It's all in the same weekend, so I will be taking a plane directly from San Diego to Tampa and going straight into panels.
Holy cow. Good luck with that.
Wish me luck.
That is cross-country travel at its finest.
I got to do all my commitments.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Everyone go check her out on her Facebook and Instagram pages. The links will be in the show notes as well as on the Facebook page. And again, thank you so much for being on Tales from the Fandom.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.